I got a story for you. And guess what? I'm not in trouble in this one. I'm about 11 years old, okay, in the 6th grade this time. And you know how it is when you're a kid. You got your A friends and your B friends, right? You know, there's the kids you want to hang out with all the time, and there's the kids that you kind of hang out with when the other ones ain't around. So this is one of the kids from the B list. He lived close to me and stuff, and we would hang out from time to time after school and whatnot. And we were hanging out there one day, and his parents said, hey, there's a movie, The Three Musketeers is going to be playing at the Coscob Library in Greenwich. You guys want to go? And I guess at the time there was a Three Musketeers movie, I think with Paul McCartney or somebody like that was in it. And I was like, ooh, that'd be fun. I like the Beatles. This would be great. Yeah. So we get in the car and we go down to the Coscob Library and we, sit down. It's not like a movie theater or anything. We're just sort of watching on folding chairs in this room. And they start the movie and the projector sound. And I'm waiting. And there's nothing. There's no talking. There's just the sound of the projector. There's not even music. Apparently it was like a Three Musketeers movie from about 1934. And the thing was completely silent. And, I'm sitting there going, whoa, boy. And I can't even imagine what this kid's parents must have, well, geez, we paid the $1 to get in or whatever it was. And, we understand there's a blind kid with us, but what are we going to do? We want to see the movie. So, I just sat there and listened to a projector go. And it took forever. It was just reel after reel after reel. Just, that's all it was. And I remember going home after that and waking up the next morning and telling my parents what I'd been up to the night before. And then it just became one of those stories. The old man, people would be over the house. The old man, hey, tell these people about the movie you saw last weekend. Come on, it's great. Tell them about the movie. And that became one of those giant stories that every time company would come around, I'd have to tell the story of the time I went to see a silent movie. I don't think I even knew that kind of thing existed. The silent movie. Because when I would tell the story the next day, the old man's friends would be, what about the piano? Wasn't there any nice piano music for you to listen to? I said, no, there wasn't just the projector sound. Maybe that's what pianos used to sound like in those days. The next weekend, they wanted to go to the Museum of Modern Art in Manhattan. And I said, no, I'm not going on that one. Well, you know what's funny? I used to go on that stuff. Like in school, you go on field trips and stuff, and you go to museums and all this art galleries and junk like that in school. But I used to go because being in a room of stuff I can't touch was still better than being in class. We went on a Circle Line ferry one time for a school field trip, and it's all to look at Manhattan, and you traveled around the entire island and stuff. It was nice. It was a nice day in the sunshine. It was better than school. I went on all those field trips. I went to this one school that just for my sophomore year of high school. I didn't like it very much. And one of the things that we used to do on Wednesdays would go to this art institute, and they'd talk about paintings. And I remember just sitting on the floor going, oh man, is this over yet? But even that was better than class. We used to have these things called film strips, right? I don't even know what it was, but there was a cassette that would play with it, and there was a little bong that told you to advance the thing to the next picture. I guess it was like slides. But those were okay, because the stories were always sort of decent, and I always like to hear the different noises they used to tell the teacher to advance the film strip for you. So those weren't too bad. And the movies that they'd show in school were, they had things like You Are There and all this other kind of stuff. The other nice thing about that was I could put my head on the desk because I didn't need to watch the movie. I could just, catch a couple Z's. And then they asked me questions about the movie, and I'm screwed. They had this other thing when I was in school called the overhead projector. And it was this piece of transparency paper. And they just put it on some machine and then would put this image on a screen, I guess, right? For the whole class to look at. And that was just another opportunity for me to get a little nap, Because it was that and writing on the board, those were the two things. But writing on the board meant the lights were on. When the films and film strips and the overhead projector, the lights were all off. So I always felt a little better about it, taking a little nap then in the dark. Come to think of it though, those overhead projector things were always silent too. So here's the thing. If your kid hangs around with a blind kid, just think a little bit before you do an activity, right? Hey, we got The Artist on Blu-ray. Want to come over? No thanks. This is The Blind Film Critic, and for Three Musketeers, I'm going to give it 0 out of 4 eyes open. And next time I'll try a Snickers.